I think Dignitas' main problem up against eLevate right now is the fact that they're playing eLevate's game. They're not only, they're just like going toe-to-toe, they're jumping in, and it gets really hard when you're playing against really skilled players like Dardez, Jermain, Nulisa's been showing up, and WorldEdit on that Ao Kuang was phenomenal. I almost want to see them switch up their game style, play a little bit more passively in those early and mid games, kind of bait eLevate into overextending, because that's what eLevate likes to do, is overextend.
But if it's not broke, why try and change it, though? I mean, you won the game. It may not have been clean, but all you care about is results. No one cares how you get the result. You can backdoor a Titan, and as long as you win, right?
I would definitely have to agree with that, but I'm also paying attention to these picks and bans. I think it's interesting that they would rather ban out the Ryzen than the Freya, and I mean, we all know that's probably one of Suntouch's favorite gods to go
themselves,
for.
Or
That's the thing.
Will eLevate go for it? No, they're going to.
No, they're not going to. We saw Jermain on it once in this tournament, but I don't think it's something. They're letting Dignitas pick this. I'm pretty sure they have they either have a counter to it, or they're actually just more worried about ShadowNightmare's Ryzen, because it has been devastating. He's very aggressive with it, and he will pick you off when you overextend trying to pick him off.
Well, Shadow showed his god pull so far here. I mean, we've seen some hunters out of him this split. We saw Scylla earlier on in the week as well, which came out of nowhere. I'm going to see a Kumbhakarna first pick here.
I think a Kumbhakarna is a pretty smart decision by eLevate, because it actually is really good at dealing with Freya. Where Dig trying to opt for that, and you can see they're even hovering the Anhur, because I think Dig can recognize that Kumba's Mez is just, and not to mention his ult and his knockup is just absolutely so annoying for a Freya to try and deal with, much less like, majority of ADCs just do not like dealing with a Kumbhakarna.
And the Yawn as well, obviously attack speed debuff as well as the Mesmerize, Force Purified. Even if you don't, the attack speed debuff really comes into play.
Kumba is such a hard counter to Freya, because not only do you have that Mez, which she is a hunter in parts, right? She's got to pop both her steroids, she uses her abilities, but you only have a 6-second window to utilize that. If you Mez her, that's 3 seconds for your damage not being there. And then if you're broken out of it, you have that reduced attack speed. It completely destroys her. And I think Dig know this. Obviously, the Anhur still could be a flex for ShadowNightmare in the mid. I don't expect that to be. I think you need that CC immunity, and you need that early game pressure from your hunter.
Well, if Dignitas have recognized this thing about Kumbhakarna, then eLevate is back to them for the next 2 picks here. They've got a lot to think about with this. They're going to pick up the Chaac.
Chaac.
Okay.
Lane dominance.
That seems more, it's not something that we're really accustomed to seeing MoGoW on, is that Chaac pick, and it seems more so for him to not opt into Erlang. It's either he's not certain what to pick himself, or he really thinks that he can come up big on this Chaac, but I'm just not certain how that's gonna work with the rest of his team, especially for eLevate to be opting for this Ullr. I feel like they're really susceptible to Bacchus right now.
We talked about oddball picks at Dennis, and maybe this is what eLevate are trying here. Full oddball picks, and then try and throw Dignitas for a loop in this game.
I will say, very similar to Sanguine, where there's a very distinct play style and composition. eLevate's kind of been in that same regard. A lot of Fafnir and Sobek. Mid lane has been consistent of the Giannis, the Ryzen mostly. Jermain gets a hard carry, either the Rom. We did see the one Freya. But this time we've seen a complete switch up in their style, which we hadn't seen at first.
We actually see Freya banned by Dignitas here. Obviously, that Anhur screaming to me is definitely going to be in the duo lane then, especially now that we've seen that banned out.
Yeah, even though Freya does suffer in the early game, at the same time, I really don't think that Dig want to give Jermain the option, considering how well Jermain has been playing. Even on Freya, they wouldn't want to risk letting him get to the mid and late game with such a high carry god.
So with the composition Dignitas has got here, Artemis, it looks pretty standard so far. It's sort of business as usual for these boys. Where are we going to round this out?
These are 3 gods that will fit into any composition. They obviously have a lot of hard CC right now. I want to see them give Ducky a confident solo laner. I want, he's been soloed a couple times this tournament. That's not a good, he's had some solo kills himself, but you don't want to allow a mismatch in the solo lane. MoGoW has not been good on rotational power, and if you can give Ducky a winning matchup and just have him snowball, like Ducky will rotate while MoGoW's still sitting in lane. And we've seen Dig play the best when Ducky is even or ahead and making an impact into those mid-game team fights.
We spoke about the flex option here. Chronos is definitely still flex. We've both seen Suntouch and ShadowNightmare play this. Where would you prefer to see it go, Taco?
I would much rather prefer to see that Chronos go into the mid lane. I think that Dignitas' strat to go ahead and put that early pressure with the Anhur Bacchus is ultimately going to be better in the long run, just because of the fact that it's so much easier for him to get ahead on that.
So this is this composition is very similar to it's kind of a mix right now of energy and sanguine style, where you have these double guardians, but now they're pairing it with, they've taken energy's double hunters, and now they're taking the double guardian from sanguine and trying to combine it. But I don't know if eLevate is the team that knows how to execute this composition.
Is this Kumba solo Chaac jungle? That's what is screaming to me right now.
I would, knowing WorldEdit and seeing some of the things that he's done just in ranked alone, it wouldn't surprise me if eLevate decided to have a little bit of fun with a Kumba jungle coming out here.
That's true.
But most likely it'll be Chaac.
But that Odin locking at the end there, I think that's just swung things completely, if not before, into Dignitas' favor. That ring is going to spell a lot of doom for the members of eLevate.
I'm going with Dignitas for this game once again, and I think it's more so the fact that eLevate isn't the team that can pull off the composition they've drafted.
Taco?
Gotta go for my boys all the way.
Of course you do. Dignitas, they can 2-0 here. The destiny's in their own hands. eLevate can still cause issues for Dignitas with one game left to play. Let's find out how this one goes. F.Toley, take it away.
Jack money, but is it enough to pay for a win? Not quite sure here. First pick Kumbhakarna got me asking some questions.
It's a lot of flexibility between eLevate's composition. We don't really know if that's going to be solo Kumba, solo Chaac, jungle Kumba, and jungle Chaac right now. So they're trying to throw Dignitas for a loop, but I'm more confident about Dignitas' composition. They have the chain CC combination between the Thor stun, the Bacchus knockup, Chronos time stop. They have the space control with the Odin ring, as well as the global pressure from Thor.
Yeah, I mean, Team Dignitas absolutely playing to win. I think we saw game number 1, eLevate throw everything to the fences, really try to bring home the victory. And after that one, I think now they're really feeling the fact that they're kind of out of it. But we'll see how this one works out. It will be the jungle Chaac. So we'll see how WorldEdit able to make the Mayan mastermind work out.
Dardez is having actually a good time smiling there with his Kumbhakarna pick. It's good to be able to, you know, bounce back from these losses and just still have a good time with it. That just goes to show that this team has the good synergy that they really need to. They're not really blaming anybody, and they're still having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to do, right? You absolutely have to be able to at least have a great time. You're here at LAN. A lot of these players here for the first time in America. Right, so getting to enjoy some Wendy's. I remember talking to the Sanguine guys, and some of the ownership and the management is U.S. based, and the team is obviously European. And they were like, "Hey, man, you know, we went out and got Wendy's, we got some Nathan's, we got some McDonald's, right? And all this is all terrible, and I'm sure Barracuda is just huddled up in a ball at home." But
coming home from work yesterday, actually, I got the chance to see Ducky and Barn walk from the McDonald's by their hotel earlier on. So yeah, enjoying the finer foods around the corner.
Dignitas now planning a little bit of an invade. To quote Mr. Suntouch, no one knows where the fat man goes. And BigManTingz certainly taking a little bit of a pointer from his hunter. Double invade coming out from the guys on Team Dignitas. And right there you see BigManTingz waddle on in, trying to get it, drops down the Wrath, and there it goes. BigManTingz on the left, successful invade. Friends on the right, successful invade. Dignitas starting this one off hot.
This is exactly what Dignitas did against Orbit yesterday when they were not able to find the first win, but they almost had it with their double invade. They had the hogs necessary to be able to control the objectives. And now, instead of going for the invade against Artemis on the boards, because last time against Orbit, they got out crit. And as a result, that gave more space control for Funballer. But now, Jermain still at level 1 Suntouch. He has some control in this dueling.
So we're seeing an interesting shift up. We've got 2 of the Guardians, one in the solo lane, and one obviously where it quote-unquote belongs on Dardez's Kumbhakarna. But this jungle Chaac. Talk to me about this pick and what Chaac can really bring out of the jungle.
It's all about the damage, realistically. You're waiting for nulisa to set up. There's a lot of damage between those two, but Suntouch taking a lot of damage. Jermain squeezing in an in-hand in between BigManTingz. He's not body blocking, unfortunately. But look at this. Dignitas baiting out WorldEdit and MoGoW to come check the blue.
Just looking for the okie doke kills. Not going to find it. Just a little bit of damage. But Jermain gets Sunny. Nice and early with the hail of arrows. And down he goes.
Suntouch just a little bit too close to the hail of arrows. And now Jermain gets first blood on an Artemis. This is not something you want to do on a late game god, giving them this kind of a gold lead.
Dardez literally in BigManTingz' face with the clap. Realistically, because Dardez isn't level 5, there's nothing he can actually do here.
BigManTingz is just smiling and laughing at what Dardez is doing. He's like, all right, you got me. I can't really do anything about that.
Meanwhile, Dardez looks asleep. He's Dardez with the biggest BM of the game, and the guy looks like he's sleeping right now. But, you know, like I said, I know there's probably a lot of fans at home like, I can't believe he's doing that. You got to realize, without that ultimate, there's nothing that the Kumbhakarna is going to be able to do anyway. So...
And now it's going to be Dignitas grabbing their own red buff after the red buff invade earlier on. And this gives more control, I would say, for ShadowNightmare. Now with the red buff, nulisa still level 4, doesn't have the abilities that she really needs to synergize with the Chaac. And that's the goal for eLevate, just to burst somebody down between the Chaac Ullr combo. Both of their combinations just doing so much damage.
Especially in this early game, you're going to throw down the axe and really throw it down. Suntouch goes down twice in just as many minutes. Jermain again with the kill.
Okay, Suntouch is going to need to take a breather right now because you cannot die twice in a row to this Artemis. You're letting him get to that mid to late game. He's going to be able to build that lifesteal and start soloing Gold Fury very quickly. And Suntouch is still now level 5. That means that Jermain is going to be able to make a play now with the board because the purification is still down. Suntouch has to concede a lot of space to Jermain.
It's a 2-level lead, absolutely, and something that eLevate Jermain definitely not going to think about lightly. Jermain, putting it simply, enjoys the good fight.
Ducky spotting the speed buff being started. He's trying to see if he can sneak it, but he's just going to back off instead. Dignitas instead, they're looking for the red buff invade onto FrostiaK.
So they got the double invade the first time around. On the second round of buffs, we're only able to see a single one go down. It's going to be red buff as Dignitas invades onto eLevate for the second time.
Which is fine because you're trying to shut down both nulisa and Jermain, and this is something FrostiaK is going to have to adapt to because of how far behind Suntouch is right now. The pressure for this global pressure god from Thor needs to be all eyes on the duel lane.
Is it going to happen, though? There's a purification chase down from WorldEdit. The turnaround, the ultimate and the stun, decent on FrostiaK, but just knocks him down to half HP. Not enough damage at all.
Dardez not being level 5 there, didn't have the epic uppercut to really follow up. And Chaac, he doesn't have that much damage at level 5. You're waiting for the axe to be completely maxed out before the physical defense comes online from FrostiaK. And that's when you can start looking for some kills.
So right now, Dardez going to be focused on by ShadowNightmare. He's the only one here in the mid lane. Ducky jumping over towards MoGoW on the Sobek solo. So Sobek solo is one of the picks that MoGoW brought out when he was trying to transition. I've brought up a lot the history of MoGoW, how it was sort of this one character, one god guy, and then moving on and kind of found like this lull, and now he's been successful. Sobek was one of the first characters that I really saw MoGoW be successful after the whole Hades Ra Hercules incident and turn into a larger solo lane.
And I think because MoGoW is playing the Sobek is what forces Dignitas into this invade strategy. Sobek at level 1 is very weak. You can't really fight in the 2v2, especially against a Thor Odin. So I like the tactics coming out of Dignitas. Unfortunately, though, left-hand side, Suntouch, he's in a lot of trouble. He's just getting constantly bullied out. FrostiaK, though, making the rotation finally.
There's what you were looking for. You need that Thor presence. If Suntouch walks up, he's going to get hit by the boar. Can't and won't. And FrostiaK makes the important play, taking down Jermain.
And he's going to have to do it again once that ultimate comes back. Suntouch still only level 5, 2 levels behind Jermain. Epic uppercut in middle, but not much follow-up after that. nulisa waiting for the right opportunity.
Root going to be avoided thanks to the ultimate out of ShadowNightmare. Not able to find the last couple of hits it needed to take down the mid laner. ShadowNightmare pushing up, and nulisa going to be met up with a player in the jungle. Gets a good stun, but still on the run. Ducky finally turns around. The rest of eLevate here to provide some assistance.
FrostiaK now getting his own speed buff. He could potentially look for a red buff invade. It's about to respawn for eLevate. This is a strategy that Dignitas need to continue on with their double wrath combination between BigMan and FrostiaK. They cannot let nulisa and Jermain get to that mid to late game form.
MoGoW with a nice little knockup on the 2 players here in his lane. And Jermain going to go ahead and join back to lane himself. Everybody sort of rejoining where they deserve to go. A lot of invades, a lot of players shifting and making different noises in different spots. But right now, I think at 6.5 minutes is the first time we see a relatively normal game here.
And I'm expecting eLevate, if they can get to that mid to late game form between this double Guardian, double Hunter composition, they should be able to control it. But a nice invade from FrostiaK, catching WorldEdit during the ultimate. It's going to have to use an ultimate of his own defensively, but overall, a nice trade. He could lay it back down on Dardez.
And there's the damage coming out. Needs a couple more shots to get Dardez down. FrostiaK lands on the ground on top of MoGoW and WorldEdit, but MoGoW's the one in trouble. From downtown, WorldEdit with the axe, going to shut down the Thor, but Ducky answers back and able to to shut down MoGoW.
So far, that was a 2-for-1 trade and a speed buff invade favoring Dignitas. Big Man able to walk away from WorldEdit's axe, but in mid lane, nulisa just one more in hand, not connecting from ShadowNightmare, but still going to force her to back, which gives a wave advantage.
Chaac actually starting to deal some damage right about now. You can see the boots fully completed and building into that hi-rez lament. Got the star online right now. This is really where Chaac can do some damage. And, you know, thinking about it, that hi-rez lament buff, making that item actually a powerful one, that's actually sort of a direct buff to Chaac. This is an item that does very, very well. Chaac has long and medium range cooldowns, I would say, so you need to bring those basics into play.
Not only that, the MP5 that hi-rez lament gives you allows you to keep spamming those abilities. Sometimes you don't always want to go Transcendence onto your jungler because it takes a little bit too long to find those stacks. Instead, you're opting more of this high cost-efficient item of the hi-rez star, transitioning really well into the lament.
Dardez knocks one up. ShadowNightmare going to jump on back, but this is clearly toast. Nulisa beats WorldEdit to the charge and gets the krill.
But now it's going to be WorldEdit getting turned on. BigManTingz, though, not in position to really find the stun. FrostiaK forced to hammer away. This Chaac is just too naturally tanky, just laughing away, recognizing that he's easily winning that trade 100% of the time.
And so right now, this Chaac definitely off to a good start. He's about 500 gold down of the Thor, which is unfortunate, but staying even with respects to the experience. And that's certainly what you really want to be looking for in the jungle.
But now it's going to be the hi-rez lament complete for FrostiaK, so the next team fight, it should favor Dignitas. Ducky trying to buy a lot of time for BigManTingz to find the kill with FrostiaK landing on top.
And there's Ducky with the kill with the Odin. The Odin has been banned so much this weekend, mainly by Sanguine as they play a lot of healer compositions, but this time around we get to see the power of the Odin jump, and the Odin ring. Keep in mind, WorldEdit, a lot of what Chaac has to do with him being internally tanky is that heal. Not going to be available, but look at Jermain.
He got spotted out by the ward by Suntouch, and it's going to be Team Dignitas with a goal here at 9 minutes. The ultimate from Jermain, forcing out the rewind, but Jermain, he's 1v4.
I don't need to back off. I can take 1v4. That's Jermain right there. The only reason he died was clearly an accident, not really meant to happen. But Jermain getting over aggressive there, failing to find any kill there in the 1v4.
He felt very confident that he might be able to burst down Suntouch before the rewind actually happened. Luckily for Suntouch, he's still relevant in the game now. Offer that kill, he can find an extra wave trying to catch back up because he's still a level behind Jermain despite the early game.
Yeah, you're looking at about 300 to 400 gold wave to wave differential between the 200 players, and of course the level, which is actually a full level. Usually it's about a half level, but because of the dominance that we saw out of Jermain early, it's about a full level. Now even, so maybe it was a half. Okay, I'll eat my words. But Jermain trades it all out right there in that player on the Gold Fury.
nulisa just hitting the shots right now onto ShadowNightmare, having to be so careful about getting in range of those abilities. And not having the lifesteal for ShadowNightmare means that he's going to have to back to base, conceding maybe another wave. WorldEdit stopping the back, committing though. Is he going to ulti for this?
He does have the ultimate, and he's going to miss it thanks to the jump. ShadowNightmare holding on to the ultimate exactly for that moment.
The purification was mistimed by WorldEdit. He did not want to get impaled under that tier 1 mid tower. So overall, I would say favoring Dignitas there, forcing out that big, long, important relic cooldown.
Now returning the mid lane. It's about 10 minutes on the clock here, folks, and just as many kills. Dignitas has 6 of them, and they're up about 2,500 gold here. They sneak a Gold Fury, and they shut down a very powerful Jermain, who got a bunch of kills earlier on onto Suntouch in the early game. This is our second game of 2, and eLevate put on a great fight in the game 1, but unable to really bring it here in game 2. MoGoW could have just barely missed the ultimate out of FrostiaK, and Dignitas, well, they're playing for the fences totally. They're fine with 1 win, but they certainly want 2. They want to make it all the way to Super Regionals.
They need to. If they're mathematically out, if they only find 1, a ShadowNightmare takes a spill in mid lane. Great play coming out of eLevate.
And Ducky going to make sure it happens on the right-hand side for his team. Team Dignitas getting the solo kill over there. BigManTingz going to join the party, and everybody making their way towards the mid lane. eLevate don't want to aggress onto the tower just yet. Instead, they'll head into their enemy jungle and be disappointed as they realize there's nothing to be had.
Right now, with the Gold Fury still being down for about 2.5 minutes, It's all about what Dignitas do with their gold lead. Right now, FrostiaK has been a good position of making these plays. He's trying to finish off the Jotun's Wrath into the tier 2. And as the game progresses right now, if they don't capitalize with these double Wrath combinations, they're going to continuously fall behind because they need to find the invades. Their team fights are more superior at this point. They have the better crowd control between the Thor, the Bacchus, and the Chronos. eLevate, they're trying to get to that late game.
And, I mean, they're trying to get to that late game, but they don't really, all they have is the Artemis, right? The Ullr really finds his stride a little bit after the peak of the mid-game. And then Chaac, of course, is the mid-game mastermind. And then after that, he kind of doesn't do anything, right? So why is eLevate really playing for the late game when they're looking directly at a Chronos?
Well, the problem is for Dignitas is that the late game crowd control between Dardez and MoGoW, it just continues to accelerate as the items come online. It's very difficult to lock down these tanky targets, which gives enough protection for these double hunters between nulisa and Jermain to just burst anybody down like FrostiaK right there.
WorldEdit throws down the hammer and takes out FrostiaK before he can take off to the skies. Still giving up chase. Suntouch gets poked just a little bit.
So uncharacteristic right now for Dignitas to get picked off like this in their own jungle, but now it's nulisa in
blink.
trouble. Ducky trying to find the kill, forcing out the Sanctuary is ShadowNightmare, but a nice jump finding nulisa.
Love the blink coming out from Ducky to follow up over the wall. Here's some trouble for WorldEdit. Gets knocked up. An ultimate out of Jermain might help the cause, but isn't enough damage. That's a different story. It's enough to chase Ducky away. And now they're looking for a kill on the ShadowNightmare. Dardez pops a yawn, and that's going to be enough to force out the rewind from the Chronos player, Suntouch.
Great rewind timing, preventing the pluck under the tier 1 mid tower. Jermain, though, he's caught out of position with no relics, no ultimate, nowhere to go.
Hey, it's 1v3. I don't need to back up.
Typical Jermain, honestly. And now
No,
that's going to be...
That one, I can't bash Jermain for that one. That was just Dignitas surprising, jumping on top with the belly flop and making it happen there. Jermain finds his 3rd death of the game. Had 2 very quick kills. Thought it was going to go a much different way, but the Artemis not working out here in the mid game.
Not at all. And now Suntouch, he's only behind 300 gold at this point, and he's at the same level now as Jermain, which is so crucial for him to come back into this game. You're playing a Chronos that's heavily relying on your ability to do damage, and as a result of his early game deficit, he's forced to go into the Celestial Legion helmet. Not something you really want to do if you're a Chronos.
Yeah, we've seen it before. But again, not something you want to do if you're a Chronos. You're looking for the pretty much the pure power. The glass cannon build is what we see Chronos is very successful with. But eLevate trying to sneak this early Gold Fury. ShadowNightmare going to show up, drop a pillar. Does not have the ultimate available. Finally comes up, and Team Dignitas take it away.
Great job from Dignitas. FrostiaK sacrificing his life in the process, but he's screaming worth to the bank right now. No problem at all, securing their 2nd big objective.
That was just incredibly unfortunate timing for eLevate. ShadowNightmare's ultimate came up the second he pushed the button. I mean, the absolute second. He did not have the ultimate when the Gold Fury was at 10%. When it was at 5%, he ulted and finally got the kill with FrostiaK. FrostiaK trades out the life, but still, the objective goes the way of Team Dignitas. 3K gold lead, and just extremely inopportune timing for eLevate. If eLevate get half a second more damage beforehand, there is no Desert's Fury, and they take the Gold Fury home for themselves.
Well, there was an opportunity presented to ShadowNightmare, and he was prepared for it. There's no luck involved in that one at all.
Luck.
Dignitas getting the 2nd Gold Fury of the game, heading into the 16-minute mark now, about 3,500 gold, and this is something that they're going to need to continue to snowball. FrostiaK has been putting himself in a pretty good position thus far. He needs to keep alleviating some pressure for Suntouch, though. Keep shutting down Jermain.
Yeah, Suntouch is really the hope for Team Dignitas here. Struggled in the early game, but obviously is able to bring it back here in the mid to late game. eLevate certainly looking to stop a little bit of that. Only about 3,000 separating the teams here, give or take. So certainly a team fight and a game that eLevate can fight into.
It's all about how eLevate position themselves around the jungle side. In mid lane, though, BigManTingz tried to find the belly flop, was not on the mark. Nice little stun, but the jump from Ducky alleviating some pressure in middle, forcing nulisa back.
MoGoW's going to make the rotation as well. About a step behind. There's the nice blink uppercut coming out of Dardez. ShadowNightmare the target on the front side. Meanwhile, nulisa is the target on the backside, and she gets taken down.
Didn't have the purification available. Sanctuary was MoGoW, though. He's going to be able to walk on through WorldEdit's ultimate. Not enough to really save MoGoW's life.
Here comes Jermain, though, taking the 1v4, already with a kill. Here comes the rest of the team. FrostiaK able to punish with a good double tap. Now WorldEdit's in trouble as well. He's likely to fall, but Dignitas don't want to follow up onto the tower because they don't have to. Suntouch with the ranged damage takes him down, and the tier 2 going to suffer the same consequence.
4 for 1 for Dignitas. Jermain doing his best panic cat impression, going for that blink Artemis play. Didn't have the Sanctuary to really keep himself alive for that team fight. And now Dignitas, they're really snowballing this one. They got the tier 1, they got the tier 2. They're going to walk away, spend all that gold.
I really thought that was going to be a strong play from Jermain. I saw the blink come in, I saw the boar come out and said, you know, all jokes aside, I think you can take this 1v3. But unfortunately for him, FrostiaK found the stun on the nose and the lack of lifesteal. We've seen Jermain build lifesteal virtually every single game, all 3 days. Today in this Artemis game, he's going to forgo the lifesteal, not building it until the Aussie is finally picked up.
It took a little bit while because he wanted to get the damage just to be able to continue to snowball against Suntouch. But with the rotations from FrostiaK, now he had to switch things up, going for the lifesteal. He's normally known for more of aggressive style with the Devo gloves, but he wanted to, I guess he wanted to go more glass cannony, and then he had to switch it because of FrostiaK.
Yeah, he had the game plan. He said, all right, I'm going to go this other build, because we've seen a lot of the European hunters this weekend forgo the lifesteal altogether. And like you said, I think halfway through, he kind of had to shift gears, pick up that Aussie. Now building into Executioner or Chinside?
I would say it should be the Executioner here. A little bit more cost-efficient. FrostiaK in the sky, trying to catch out MoGoW, but the back was in time. Not going to be able to find that one.
Where's TPing to? Mid lane?
He's going to go gank underneath onto Jermain. Suntouch is playing so aggressive.
And that's a wonderful 1v1, but this is pro Smite. Ain't no such thing as a single kill. Suntouch gets some help from the solo laner. Wonderful play. And Sunny's able to take down Jermain because of it.
Suntouch was baiting very brilliantly there, and now it's going to be WorldEdit getting bursted down by Ducky yet again. With this one-player advantage, Dignitas, they should be able to group up on the left-hand side and get this tier 1 tower.
And it certainly looks like that one, Tully. FrostiaK. And ShadowNightmare is actually just going to take his red buff.
Well, it's going to be a nice zoning from FrostiaK. Constantly poking out WorldEdit is what you want to do. You want to mitigate the potential engage from the shock. MoGoW's dash is down, forced into lurking in the water.
He's going to look to be a little bit aggressive. Don't forget Dardez is here, has the ultimate uppercut available. Not going to use it quite just yet. I like the knock up from the outside.
A lot of displacement for eLevate right now. Just can't really chase the kill onto MoGoW despite his charge spray being down, despite his ultimate being down. And that's going to allow eLevate to just hold onto this tower for a little bit longer. But the question is, can they hold on to this gold here that's going to be started by Dignitas?
They'll certainly have to think about it, because right now, 7,000 gold is a problem. If it goes above double digits, eLevate has to start thinking about how to pack their bags, pretty much. They're already gone, but this is... It's how you want to leave the building, right? You want to leave on a high note or a low note. Elevator out. If they win this one, they can walk home proud saying, hey, we got knocked out, but we did some knocking out too.
That's true. Dignitas, they have to win the second game if they want to stay relevant, and eLevate could play spoiler here, so they're still in the game. They still want to be able to make an impact. Dignitas starting the goal here, WorldEdit going into the backline. FrostiaK, though, landing on the backline himself.
Ultimates are all available for the guys on eLevate. Down comes the elbow drop out of the Chaac. There it goes, and Jermain in trouble. Stunned out is Ducky, but BigManTingz drops the jug and gets everybody drunk. ShadowNightmare with the ultimate all the way down Broadway. One for him, one for MoGoW as he answers back against the solo laner, but it's 3 for the mid lane Anhur. ShadowNightmare making the big plays and making it continue. Dignitas just on fire.
Where was Dardez during that whole engagement? He was around the speed buff. Was he like chasing a kill or something onto Ducky? But either way, 4 for 1 in the favor of Dignitas, and they're going straight for the fire. They don't care about gold here now. They want to get this fire shot, get the towers, get the phoenixes, get the game.
No question about it. You know, the Anhur in the mid lane is such an interesting pick, and it's so ShadowNightmare. Usually I don't like the Neath choice for the mid lane because it takes what your mid lane carry. You can't carry really on the Neath. ShadowNightmare, on the other hand, he is this brand of mid lane that has almost a hunter mentality. He wants to fight you. He wants to take these 1v1s, but mages don't really fare well in the 1v1. You give him the Anhur. All he wants to do is line players up and launch that Desert Fury. We're seeing it time and time again. I love this hunter in the hand of ShadowNightmare.
It just makes Dignitas as a whole so strong whenever you don't really know if that Anhur is going mid, dual lane. You have such flexibility in your team comp with Suntouch playing the Chronos, and that's what makes Dignitas such a strong team, I would say, trying to compete with the likes of Orbit and Energy.
When you look at the hunters that make their way to the mid lane, you're looking primarily at, like I said, the Neath and a little bit of the Ullr, and I guess you got to mention the Chiron. Shouts to Yaman, even though Yaman's pretty much the only one to do it. When it comes down to the Anhur choice, he still has that ultimate that you lose a lot of the time by going the hunter mid. You don't get an ultimate at all out of your Ullr. Your Neath ultimate is utility based, so you're losing this giant team fight damage AoE burst. Anhur brings that, and it's a lot of fun watching ShadowNightmare really run the mid game on the Anhur choice, but still when it comes to these later game team fights, still bring the power that you expect out of a mage out of the hunter.
Now it's Dignitas running the game, trying to group up on the left-hand side to get that tier 2 tower, but it's MoGoW that might be in trouble against Ducky. He is very low. He needs to find one more in hand. The bird bomb not on the mark, but left-hand side, the team fight engages.
Both of the solo laners have their teleports up, so Ducky's going to be able to join the party if he so feels fit. Jermain, however, he's going to get taken out as soon as he takes down BigManTingz. Suntouch can't find the basics. FrostiaK adds one, and Suntouch finds the last. Dardez trying to find an exit on the top side. WorldEdit trying to find an exit on the bottom side. Nobody on Dignitas even thinking about the tower anymore.
They don't really want to contest with WorldEdit still around the corner. They're going to wait for these minions to eliminate the backdoor protections. And now, Suntouch level 20, ShadowNightmare level 19 with red buff. They're going to melt that tower and head on over to their first Phoenix.
Meanwhile, the Kumbhakarna split pushes. eLevate, I think, are a little bit deflated despite being elevated. Right now, left-hand side, Phoenix being attacked on it. WorldEdit doing his best, dropping a Sanctuary and just walking in between the basics, but that's going to be it. Sometimes the basics hurt a little bit too much. Blackjack for ShadowNightmare. 21 on the board for Team Dignitas. They'll back off and head back up the lane, most likely looking towards the mid-Phoenix. However, they seem to have different plans.
Dignitas are just playing their composition brilliantly at this point. They're playing together. They're synergizing their crowd control so well. We saw earlier on in the engagement around the Gold Fury when BigManTingz found a double knockup into ShadowNightmare's Desert Fury. And this just goes, that's a small example of how Dignitas have been really synergized, I would say. And it's all about FrostiaK and ShadowNightmare.
So when you're playing a game like this, I think Dignitas right now, they're up ahead by 11,000 gold. You can't really count eLevate out. We have seen eLevate make the turnaround plays. But I think Dignitas have morally won this game. Like I said, we saw the split push Kumbhakarna. I think eLevate kind of just going through the motions at this point. Dignitas' next match, they've got Orbit. Certainly a different opposition than eLevate. Charlie, I want you to think back to your player days. How important is it for Dignitas to win this one super heavy-handed, knowing that Orbit, their toughest opposition, comes next?
It's all about one game at a time. They're not really focused on Orbit. They're more focused on closing this game out. You cannot give anything in return to eLevate. But once this game is complete, if Dignitas win it, they'll be in a position still to topple over Orbit. This will put Dignitas at about 7 points after this win, which, if they win against Orbit, they'll have 10 points, so they will go over both Sanguine and Orbit.
So right now, Dignitas, they're focused on taking this one, and they're playing it very, very clean. Nice little split push action coming out of eLevate here, trying to make it happen up the mid lane. Jermain on the left-hand side, but the core of Dignitas retreating from their right lane push, trying to join this team fight. There's damage coming out from the jungler, silencing out two. Axe not doing enough to Suntouch. WorldEdit not transitioning into this late game as well as he thought he would, and Ducky gonna put him down.
The rotation from Dignitas are here to punish the over-rotation from eLevate, finding these 3 kills. This could be the game, honestly, from here. They have the damage to really get this Titan.
There's a single death on this Odin. Meanwhile, if there was any question, it's certainly out of the window. The Duck is not only coming, he's here and he's jumping on you. 9, 1, and 12. This might be one of the better games we've seen out of Ducky.
BigManTingz. Just doing BigManTingz right now. Waiting for the Fire Giant to respawn right now. It's going to be Dignitas securing the second Fire Giant of the game. very clutch play, I would say, from them overall. That Gold Fury steal by ShadowNightmare earlier on, around the 15-minute mark, is what really allowed them to stay in the game. They didn't allow eLevate any breathing room, and now with that second Fire Giant, they're going to look to close things out, heading towards that right side Phoenix.
Dignitas making their final push up here on the right-hand side of the map. They've got the Fire Giant. They've got the win in their sights. And this time, I don't think they're going to wait for 2 minion waves totally. Might just be 1. Let's talk to Steel Series and listen in to Team Dignitas as they make their run.
Gifted with dog.
Push up into them. Combo's on the side. Game and combo.
Frost in the air.
Okay, then come there. Go for. Wait, yeah, we have minions soon. We good.
Can we tank for a bit or something?
Ducky cap.
Yeah, I don't like wasting shield though. It's like.
Go the Phoenix. Nice.
Nice. Get a plug man.
Alright.
I'm gonna.
Bingo.
You attack this one.
I'll go shout.
You have to attack.
Yeah, I'll get out. He's shout.
Combo linked in back.
We got combo.
Onto the cage.
Okay.
All done.
Chuck.
Chuck it back.
In the back.
Sobek.
Sobek's dead. End.
Nice, that's end, boys.
There it is, and there it is. A nice little sigh of relief, which I think is exactly what Dignitas are feeling.
They're very happy that they won that game, but it was not clean after that first game. I think that they still have a lot of things to talk about going against Orbit.
You know, like, and I asked you, I said straight, you know, are they thinking about the next game? And you said no. As a player, it's one game at a time. But I feel like as soon as you come out of that game, you say, all right, that wasn't the cleanest. Yeesh, we got Orbit up next. It's a tall order.
But to be fair, they did split with Orbit the last time they played.
Very true.
They almost won the first game of that set with a very sneaky double invade strat that they did show in that other set.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that a couple of times out of Dignitas, not even just this weekend. We saw it, of course, throughout the regular season. No one knows where the fat man goes, right? That's Suntouch when he was on the support before we made the swap to Hunter. We were seeing even those invade strats coming out as well. Is it all about the invade, or is it across the board just Dignitas dominance? Let's ask the guys in the analyst desk how they feel.
Thanks so much, Summer and totally Taco. You got the 2-0.
Yeah, a little breather, but you know the real games are about to start.
Destiny. Is it Dignitas' destiny, Dennis? Because when you look at the standings now, this is crazy.
Yeah, so Dignitas need to win both games. They cannot split or else Orbit and Sanguine will be above them. This is their last game of this tournament. It is critical. A 2-0 means they go through. Anything
Guaranteed.
less means they are going home.
Guaranteed. Just because if Dignitas 2-0 here, one of the other two teams cannot catch them because of the way the games will work out there. So Dignitas have the destiny in their own hands. How confident will they be, though, Sacco, when you look at that performance against eLevate?
I mean, you know nerves are going to be a huge factor considering that for Ducky and BigMan, this is their first line event. BigMan's been turning up pretty big, but at the same time, I think most of my concerns falling off Ducky, but I think I think the Duck is coming. I think Dig is ready, and I'm confident that they're going to come up.
That was definitely Ducky's best game. We saw him, I think, 6-1 and 10, or whatever the kills at the end added up to. A strong performance, and I love the adjustment from Suntouch. We saw that double Hunter comp come out, and what I wanted to see from eLevate, or excuse me, from Dignitas was kind of the baits, and we saw that from Suntouch doing a good job kind of like letting Jermain go aggressive on him. He played very passively. We saw the TPs coming from Ducky as well. Jermain with 7 deaths before that last fight on an Artemis. That was the issue. eLevate, I don't think, are the team that were able to pull off the double Hunters. They're players who were on the Guardians are very aggressive style. They don't really like to peel for their team, and I think Jermain suffered because of that.
For me, picks and bans was the biggest talking point there. That last pick of Odin for Ducky, so influential in that. And you saw, like, early game, eLevate got off to a good start again. The difference was when Ducky showed up on Odin, things changed.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad time for eLevate all around. They had 4 people on their team that just didn't really have a response for Odin Cage, and you saw MoGoW pick up that Phantom, but it just didn't really have any kind of relevance.
Yeah, really big issues for them in Ice overall with how that went on as the game progressed. They drafted a very strange comp that we've seen slightly not conventional, you know? That's a bit slightly not conventional. It's more like the fact that there's a reason the meta is the meta, right? I know people are trying to adapt it, but that didn't really work.
Well, they used, like I said, they drafted a composition from two other teams. Energy have been really the primary team to drive that double hunter with the Neither, the Chiron, and mid. Ullr this time for nulisa. And then they combined the strategy that Sanguine used, the double guardian, having one in the jungle, although it wasn't in the jungle, it was a Chaac instead. But they had the double guardian, one in the soul lane. But it's just like their play. That's not a composition that their play styles mesh with. Like, you can't have Jermain on an Artemis because he's got to peel for himself because Dardez isn't doing it. Dardez is jumping on the backline trying to kill ShadowNightmare.
Well, we do have with F-Dot right now the solo laner from Dignitas and one of the rookies at this LAN, Ducky. Tom, get interviewing.
Thanks a lot, Hidden Man. It's Ducker. It's Ducky. Ducker Z. Honestly, I got to be honest with you. You're one of my favorite players to root for online. I'm a big part of the Twitch spam, so sorry, guys. But anyway, congratulations on your victory against eLevate. Let's talk about you real quick. You crushed it. You were, what, 9-1-12, I think, before the end of the game?
I think it was 10.
All right, my bad. Why don't you talk that and break down your Odin play there?
Well, I saw that they had 4 gods with no escape, so I thought, why not pick it? We're going to invade anyway, so it's just a really good pick overall.
Absolutely. Now, you recently made a big swap. Last year, you were on a Challenger Cup team, and now you're playing not only on the big stage, you're playing at LAN, and you're winning at LAN. Talk to me about the difference between that experience versus now.
When Challenger Cup, you had the, was it 8? I don't know how many weeks, but it was just much easier to play online. But at LAN, oh, it's so exciting. Like hearing the other team screaming when they make a play, it's so tilting.
Yeah.
You just got to bring yourself back, and it's really nice to play here.
We heard you guys making some noise as well. Is that mainly Suntouch and some of the more experienced, or
Suntouch and BigMan? They like to scream quite a bit.
It's certainly working out for you guys. You're in position to make it all the way to Super Regionals. What does that mean to you, making it towards the big stage?
That'd be awesome. I get to come here again, have some more Smoothie Kings. That'd be really nice.
And that's actually a good question. What is this your first time in America?
Yeah, it is.
What's your biggest take-home point about here?
Oh, the roads are so big.
Just big roads?
Just big roads. Like when I'm crossing the road, oh, I'm terrified.
Well, you're certainly not terrified in lane, my man. Congratulations on your win, and you guys look fantastic. That's Ducky, the solo lane rookie coming out of Dignitas. Thanks a lot. We'll be back in a few.
Thanks.